Hey creators, Jake Barros here, and today we're going to be looking at how to create these modern, fresh looking, minimal social pop-ups. Like always, if you're here for the first time watching, welcome on in. Be sure to subscribe if you're wanting more info, tutorials, and more about leveling up your content and looking at these social pop-ups in action. You can, of course, join me over on my social media and during live streams over on Twitch. Anyways, like I mentioned, we're going to be looking at how to create these social pop-ups today using both Photoshop and Premiere Pro. We're going to be looking at how to create them as like a static image if you want to place it on top of another photo, and as well in that animated format if you did want to place it inside your YouTube videos, your streams, or any other content like that. So let's get into it. Okay, so here's a set of the social pop-ups I brought up as an example so you guys can see what a finished product looks like. But this is what we're looking at creating inside of Photoshop here. So we're gonna start off with this static imagery. This is actually quite simple. It's really just a couple of shapes laid on top of each other, then obviously the social icon, and then your text itself. So actually not too complicated to create. I'm gonna come up to File, we're gonna choose New, and I'm actually just gonna choose a 1920 by 1080 purely because we are going to bring this into a video format later. So at least this way I know everything's kind of formatted exactly the same way. Okie dokie. So what we want to do first is essentially go over to our left toolbar over here, and we want to make sure we choose the rounded rectangle tool. If you don't see it, just hold your mouse click down and this menu should pop up and we can select that rounded rectangle. From here, if you want to start choosing colors, I'm just going to choose one so we can start kind of defining what everything looks like. Let's just go a nice bright yellow. I'm going to drag out a rectangle here. We don't have to worry about the size too much right now. Cool, so we have that first shape, that bannered rectangle. This is where we're going to place our social handle in. So let's actually do that now. That will help us with the sizing, which will then affect our corners as well. So let's go over and choose our text tool. And I'm actually going to just type this text outside of this box so it's not locked to the shape. Let's just turn it maybe a darker color for now so we can see it across the background. And I'm just going to type in my name as my social handle. Cool, so now that we have our text layer in, we can actually start adjusting the size of the rectangle. So I'm going to go Control T to bring up our transform tool. If you're on a Mac, it will be your Command T. And I can start just adjusting the size here. I always just want a little bit of room above, a little bit of room below the text itself. There we go. So now that we have the general sizing here, we can actually look at the rounded corners because we kind of want to have this little effect here itself. Okay, cool. So I've just pulled out a couple of windows here. If you don't have these windows, your layers and your properties, these are the main ones we'll be using. You want to go up to your window menu, make sure the layers option is ticked and your properties one is also there too. Now that we have both of these, I can go ahead and select the rounded rectangle layer and go back into properties. And you'll notice that we now have this option here, our manipulation of the corners. So essentially all you want to do here is just play around with the numbers. I know probably about 30 is where I want to be at. And you notice that those corners have now changed. If we want a little bit of a curve, maybe a 10. So this is up to you. I think 30 is probably about the right sitting for this size of rectangle. You can get really into it, a little bit artsy if you want. If you uncheck this little link button, it means that we can manipulate these corners individually. So maybe I want this side to actually be pointy and I want the opposite side to be pointy as well to get like just a different shape. That's totally up to you. I'm going to make these ones all the same size, but the option is there obviously to customize as you want. We're going to go ahead and create the little square for our social icon like we can see on our examples here. So same rules apply. We want to go back over to our rounded rectangle tool, but this time instead of just dragging a shape out, you're going to hold down Shift. And this is just going to make sure that it drags out a symmetrical shape. So we can just go ahead, drag it to whatever. We might change the color again, just so we can see the difference. And once more, Control T, we can start manipulating this a little bit more. get it in place. Again, as you can see, we need to manipulate these corners. So back in our properties menu and finding that perfect number that you want. I think 30 again is probably going to be the way to go. There we are. Cool, so now we have the basic shapes for these social pop-ups. The only thing I need to add is a social icon. Obviously, you can troll Google Images and find a social icon of your choice. I've got some preloaded up here in my little library. Might go ahead and pull this Twitch one in, resize it accordingly. So there it is, it's all complete. The most basic format of it is now showing. We can just kind of jazz it up a little bit, making it look real nice. I'm gonna change the color of this square. Once again, I'm just gonna come back to our rectangle tool. You'll notice that our color tool comes back for us. I would suggest your square layer you choose as a lighter color. And then if you say want the same color, so if we want 2 purples here, just make the rectangle layer a darker purple. And that way you can make sure that both layers are standing out just like this. So that's actually looking pretty good. If you wanted, if it was your taste, you could actually leave it like this. But over in our examples, you can kind of see we've added some shadows in, especially if you're adding them to say videos or your live streams. You probably want those shadows in just to help separate it from the background a little bit. So the easiest way to do this, we can go ahead, choose our square layer. We'll get that shadow so it helps separate it from the back banner there. I'm gonna come down to the FX tool and choose drop shadow. And once again, it's just a bit of eyeballing. These settings are actually there that I did last time. So as you can see, if we did the spread, kind of see how that manipulates the shadow there. I just want a little bit of definition, just so it looks like that square is just sitting off our back square there. About there is pretty good. And we might go ahead and do it to our rounded rectangle as well, just to help separate it from the background a little bit too. And that's it. That's the static imagery side of things put together. Like you can see, it's just 2 simple shapes. We manipulated those round corners, dropped in our text, dropped in our social handle, just added a couple of shadows. That's really all there is to it. And that's how I've gone ahead and then created all of these. It's just the same thing over and over again. So the easiest way, if you are creating multiple social pop-ups for your different platforms, what I'd suggest is selecting each of these layers you've just created, coming down to the folder button to group them. We can double click on that, call it Twitch for now, and then just duplicate the group. So you can hold down Alt and drag to duplicate, or you can also drag it down to the new layers button just down here as well, and go ahead and call it something entirely different. So now that we've created all the different social pop-ups that we want in its static kind of form, we can actually use these assets that we've just built in order to help us create animated ones. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and export these layers separately. So I'm gonna turn off first this background layer, just because we want that transparent background to happen. And I'm going to come in and turn off some of these layers. Now, this is the thing. If you have like multiple different channels with different kind of handle names, so let's say I have my Twitch channel under Jake Barros, but then I also have a separate Twitch channel with a different name that I also live stream to, I would suggest exporting this rectangle banner by itself without the name. For ease, if it's just the one channel you have across all the platforms, you're not having multiple different brandings or anything like that, you can actually just go ahead and turn your social handle back on, and you can actually export the banner and your text together. So let's go and do that. I'm gonna go File, Export, Save for Web, and I'm gonna make sure that our PNG is chosen. You'll know if it's not because your white background will come back if it's in JPEG form. So making sure that PNG is chosen, we can go ahead and save that somewhere. And when I come back in, turn these layers off and turn our square and our little social icon back on as well, and do exactly the same process. Cool, so we've just saved everything we've created as separate assets to move into our animation side of things. Obviously, if you're just wanting the static image of your social pop-up, well, once again, File, Export, Save for Web. And with all those layers turned on, you just do the same thing. Save it where you want and start dropping it into your photos. Otherwise, those of you who want to know how to animate it, well, let's go ahead and do that right now. So like I said, for this tutorial, I'm utilizing Premiere Pro. You can obviously use the editing software of your choice. It's all very much the same, using the same tools across the board. So as you saw at the start of the video, the animated pop-ups look very, very nice. So, and just like the Photoshop side of things, there's not too many steps in order to make it look pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead, double click my little projects window here. Again, if you don't have any of these windows up, just go into our window menu and making sure you have the correct windows selected. Things like projects, as well as things like effects is the other thing we're gonna be using today, and effect controls. So by double clicking in my project window, I can find those social pop-up assets I just created. So I have a timeline already prepped, but if you need to create one, we simply just need to go Control or Command N, and we want to set up once more, just like in Photoshop, a 1920 by 1080 sequence. If you've got a preset like I do, go ahead and choose that one. Otherwise, you can come up into settings and copy the same kind of settings that I have across here. Once you've input all these different settings, you can go ahead, give it a name. Let's call our social pop-ups and go ahead and click OK. Cool, so the animated pop-ups we're gonna be looking at today are going to be about 10 seconds long. I think that's probably a nice duration. Obviously, if you want something shorter, want something longer, it's very easily manipulated, and we'll go through that as well. So I'm gonna drag in our assets we created. There's our handle and the rectangle, as well as the social icon too. First and foremost, the thing that we want to do is make sure these two PNG files are indeed 10 seconds long, or the duration you're looking at doing today. So this is the point where things are totally up to you in terms of customization. There's a couple of ways we can make this move. The way inbuilt into Premiere Pro is coming up into the effects panel. In the search, you're looking for transform, and you would click and drag that onto one of your assets here. Technically both, but right now on one. What we're really looking at doing right now is utilizing keyframes in order to manipulate the movement of our two assets. What I would highly suggest, if you have never done keyframing before, you can check out my simple motion text video. I walk through exactly what keyframing is and exactly how to do it, and a nice little method to give you some really nice looking movement inside your videos like this. So definitely go watch that to understand keyframing. Right now, we're just gonna do the basics. So I'm gonna come up, we're manipulating the position key here. I'm gonna turn keyframes on here, toggle the animation, and maybe we want it to go for just a few frames, maybe 10 frames. So I'm gonna bring our little playhead here to 10 frames, and I'm gonna hit the little keyframe add or remove keyframe button to add another one. So coming back to the first one, I just drag my image where I want, and now it will come straight back up, just like that. So that's one way you can go ahead and add movement. It's totally up to you. You start mucking around, maybe you want it to, fly in from the left, fly in from the top. The direction is totally up to you. To make things really easy for you guys, I actually released a motion graphic preset pack, which is this one here, JB Motion Preset. This actually gives you all those keyframes done for you. All you need to do is just drag and drop one of these presets onto your files and the movement will be done. So let's say we do want our social icon coming up from the bottom. I'm just gonna choose this bottom side in preset here, click and drag it on to my social icon, and you'll notice that these keyframes have already come up for us, and that animation is simply there looking good already. So my motion preset pack is available within my Discord. There will be a link down below to find exactly where that is. And believe me, it makes this kind of stuff really, really easy. So we've got that in coming in from the bottom simply by clicking and dragging. I can then go ahead. I want it to go back down to the bottom to exit as well. So bottom side out, drag that onto my social icon layer here. And you'll notice that that exit is also there too. So now we've got something looking like this and exiting like this. So as you can see with the social pop-ups I created, it enters in, it does this little reveal of the social handle and banner, and then that reveal goes back and everything pops down. This is totally up to you how you guys want to animate this side of things. Today, let's do something simple. So we're still going to look at a kind of a little reveal here. Two things we're going to do here. We're going to use our cropping effect, and we're also going to use keyframes again, that position keyframing. If you want to do it yourself, again, using the transform tool, manipulating these keyframe positions. Otherwise, again, you do have my motion preset pack as well. For this, I'm going to use the preset pack. I'm going to have our little name banner this line in from the left, just like this. Cool, so the pieces are in place. Like I said, the other thing we want to use, the other effect we want to use is our crop. So in the effects panel again, I'm going to search for crop. I'm going to drag it now onto our handle, our banner asset right there. Over in the effects control, we can now see our crop tool. And what we want to manipulate is this left portion. As we have this flying in from the left, we basically don't really want it to appear over on our left side. We want it to appear like it's appearing underneath that icon, just like that. So not looking too bad. So you could leave it like that if you really wanted to. I kind of want the end of the banner sticking out like it was before, like that. So what I'm actually gonna do, I'm gonna keyframe our crop. So that as it starts popping in, we can move that crop to reveal this little bit poking out here. So what I'm gonna do, one keyframe over. So I want it to be about here is when it starts revealing the side. I'm gonna drop a keyframe here and another keyframe just behind it. One keyframe to its left. And that first keyframe is gonna be the one that we crop. Maybe about 41 looks like the golden number here. Okay, so your keyframe should look something like this over the side. And what will happen now, if we go one keyframe over, you can see that little lip just reveals itself slightly. All we need to do now is make sure we got the exit right. So this is actually really easy. All we want to do with our handle or our banner, our rectangle selected, we want to make sure we bring our playhead to one keyframe after this last keyframe. I'm going to go ahead and use the cutting tool, so C on our keyboard to get our little razor, or it's over to the left here on the panel, and go ahead and cut at our playhead here. We're then going to duplicate this, so holding Alt on our keyboard and dragging down to the back here. We've now copied this over here, which means we've also copied all our keyframes. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on our copied asset and nest it first. And then I'm going to right click on it again and choose speed and duration. Now we had to nest it first because this effect here, the speed and duration, wouldn't work just on a simple PNG file or an image file. So we kind of have to trick Premiere Pro into thinking it's not that by placing it into a nest. I can then go ahead and choose the reverse speed option right there and hit OK. So what that's now done is reversed all those keyframes we did for the entrance and made it an exit. All we have to do now is line these two pieces up on the puzzle so the exit's a bit smoother. Simplest way to do that is just to come back to the front of your timeline here and just count the keyframes until this little handle banner reveals itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We did do one extra before. Remember the one extra after the keyframe before we cut it? So 13 is what we need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We're going to drag this nested file to there. So now we've got our entry. It holds for about 10 seconds. Around that 9 seconds, it exits. So that's it. Now we're left with this nice, modern, minimal looking pop-up that comes into your scene really nicely and exits really nicely as well. Your next steps, if you have more social pop-ups for different platforms, you'd go ahead and then do the same thing to those. But the last piece of the puzzle is obviously exporting it. So I'm going to come down to the back of our timeline here to our 10-second mark. I'm going to hit O for our out point, and that will just make sure that we export everything within this little section. I'm going to go up to File, Export, Media. Now, the settings that you want the format to be in QuickTime. You want the preset to be Apple ProRes with the 4:4s. And then you want to come scrolling down here in the video menu to where it says depth and just make sure the option of the 8+ alpha is selected. The alpha selection will just make sure, like we did in Photoshop, that the background does not be exported as well. If you are doing multiple pop-ups, I would suggest then coming up to our preset save button, calling it something like transparent background, and then going ahead and clicking save to save that preset. That means you can now just click on your preset drop-down menu and you'll see that saved transparent background preset you just saved, which makes doing multiple of these so much easier. Come down to output name, click save where you want it to save. As you can see, I've already saved all of mine, and then go ahead and click export. And that's it. That's one way you can go ahead and create your own modern looking, fresh, minimal social pop-ups. So as seen in this tutorial, there's plenty of opportunity to go ahead, dive in yourself and customize it fully using the transform effect for those keyframes, obviously designing the way you want to design within Photoshop. But if you do indeed like the look of these social pop-ups, if you like the ease of my motion graphic pack preset, you can actually get 2 free things within my Discord Creator Inc. right now. One being the motion graphic preset pack we use today to help animate everything inside of Premiere Pro, as well as the full pack for these social pop-ups, which will have inside the complete Photoshop file with all the banners you saw in today's video, as well as the Premiere Pro session file with all the animations done. All you need to do is jump in and just change your social handles. So making your life so much easier, you can grab both those free preset packs within my Discord, not to mention some other great benefits as well. Not only do you get to chat to some amazing creative people inside of that community, but where you can also find another free resource for yourself called Stream Tapes. Stream Tapes is a copyright-free music library created by myself and my best mate Scott, giving you free music you can stream off Spotify, Apple Music, or even direct download the files from the website streamtapes.com.au. Use it in your videos, use it across your social content, use it within your live streams without the fear of getting copyright striked. So jump into Creator Inc. The links are all down below if any of these resources sound good to you. Anyway, creators, that is absolutely it for today's video. I hope it was indeed helpful and gave you some insight in creating your own social pop-ups. If you are indeed using the social pop-up pack or you've created your own, definitely tag me. I would love to see the creativity you guys have gone to. Anyway, that is it from me. I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you do subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Happy creating, everyone.